Hey, what's up? It's Jill from Take 'em Down Jacks. We're getting ready to get started right now. We had a little delay of weather, but if everybody is watching, if you could just go ahead and share this video, we're going to get started any second now. Just share the video.
What's up, Pete?
Take them down! Take them down! Take them down! Ladies and gentlemen, if I can get all of your attention this way. You guys too. I'd like to start this amazing event off with a piece that I've written especially for today. This is my homage to your dear racism and ignorance. Written in the lines of history is my death, the demise of a spirit with skin like mine. You'd like to believe your ignorance is truth. My ancestors pay homage, laying down their bodies just so what you call heritage can be remembered. But it's our history you've severed. Well, guess what? You will not destroy us. You will not take us down. You will not make us feel small. You will not break our stride. You will not kill our spirits. You will not hurt us any longer. You will not take our joy away from us. See, we are conquerors. We have lived in darkness. We have seen death and laid our lives in the crevice of his soulless cavity. We have been shamed to the point where addiction was a promise and regret came one too many times. We have honored your given fear like we've never seen glory, like staying still is the only place we'd rather be, but killing ourselves slowly at the lack of our own mercy. My dear, that is not who we are anymore. Your ignorance will not pull us back to that place. We have walked through it, around it. We have raised our pain to herd the fields giving way to crop failure, seedless grounds and dry lands that have given us nothing but frustration, while bags and wells sit in the barn awaiting attention. But you will not take away our wealth. We will not lose. Take them down. Take them down. Take them down. Thank you. When I say take them, you say down. Take them. Down. Take them. Down. When I say take them, you say down. Take them. Down. Take them. Down. How you guys doing? My name is Cheech.
My name is Eve.
My name is Todd.
We are Take 'em Down Jacks.
Just a little bit about Take 'em Down Jacks. We've been together now for probably a year, spreading the word in the community about getting these hateful monuments taken down that represent racism. They represent the suffering of millions of Africans. And it is time, it is time. All across this country, these statues are coming down. As far north as Brooklyn, New York, these statues are coming down. And now it's Jacksonville's turn.
And there is also a raffle going on this way. It's a $1 donation. You have to stay all the way to the end in order to receive the prizes. We have prizes like the tickets to the Jags versus Colts game, a $100 restaurant gift card, Sephora gift card, Take 'em Down Jacks t-shirts, and we also have that available for you guys. And also, be sure to share the live feed that we have on the Take 'em Down Jacks Facebook page. I see a lot of phones out there, so feel free to hop on Facebook. Share it with your friends and let everybody know what's going on. It's happening right now. The revolution is live.
We just want to go over the rules of engagement here today, because as you can see, the very people who want to keep these statues up are making the point that we are making. And that is that they represent hate, they represent white supremacy, and they represent the rich. Because the war was fought for the rich to maintain slavery. So we do not want to interact with these people. They need to be quiet and learn, just like everybody else out here is going to be learning today about what we need to do to get these statues down and the history of them. So that's it. Just stay away from them and look this way. Thank you.
To make sure everybody at our rally is safe, we have a couple of peacekeepers around. If you see anybody that has a white hat with an orange duct tape on top of it, they're one of us. They're our peacekeepers. Could I get any peacekeeper in the crowd to raise their hand? We got them. All right, if you see anything suspicious, just let them know and they'll take care of it. All right.
All right, so we have our first speaker coming up. This amazing young woman is a community organizer for the Jacksonville Community Action Committee. She's a history major at the University of North Florida, and she's the president of the UNF Students for a Democratic Society. I know you've probably seen her. She's amazing and inspiring. She inspires me all the time. You guys make some noise for Miss Monique Sampson.
When I say people, you say power, people? Power! People? Power!
Awesome, awesome. My name is Monique Sampson, and as she said, I'm with the Jacksonville Community Action Committee, as well as the University of North Florida, SCS. I'm a history major at the University of Florida right now, so historical facts are extremely important to me. So I'm here today to tell you that there is 100%, without a doubt, the Civil War was fought to preserve slavery. Slavery was $1 trillion industry at the time, and the South would fight tooth and nail to preserve it. So when they launched the war and inevitably lost the war, they did lose. We did win. They tried to do something like white backlash, and that came with the inception of the Ku Klux Klan, as well as the inception and erection of these monuments. Out of 700 monuments, instead of posting them and putting them up right after the Civil War, they waited until the height of Jim Crow between the 1890s to the 1950s to put up these monuments as a reminder to black people, this is what you'll always be to us second-class citizens. So, like I said, they started the war and lost and put up all these racist monuments, so that's why we must and have to take them down. So a lot of people often think that by taking down these monuments, you will be erasing history. But I'm here to tell you that that is 100% not true. History is not preserved through the idol worship of genocidal slaveholders. It is preserved through books. It is preserved through museums. We do not need idol worship to preserve history at all whatsoever. So whether you're fighting to take monuments down, whether you're fighting against police brutality, whether you're fighting to get justice for Keegan Roberts or Maurice Hobbs, we must all stand together. It is very important. So I'm going to leave you with this, a quote from one of my favorite revolutionaries, John Brown. He led the raid on Harper's Ferry. He said, "Talk, talk, talk," exclaimed Brown in disgust after attending a meeting of the New England Anti-Slavery Society. "That will never free the slaves. What is needed is action, action." So what I'm saying to you is take action, get involved with your local communities, and let's take these symbols of white supremacy down. So, thank you. So everybody put your fists up. I'm going to leave you with an Asada chant. Repeat after me. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. It is our duty to win. We must love and protect one another. We must love and protect one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Thank you.
Yes. 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 Take them down. Our next speaker is an activist and scholar. He is a former president of SCLC, which was instrumental in taking down the name of Nathan Bedford Forrest High School. Nathan Bedford Forrest was a general and a KKK Grand Wizard, the first one, the original Grand Wizard. He also manages the Star paper, the black newspaper in Jacksonville, and Star TV here in Jacksonville. Please welcome Opia Sakoni.
I am a Southerner. Take them down. I am a Southerner. Take them down. I am a Southerner. Take them down. I was born in this city. Southern heritage includes some wonderful things like kindness and hospitality. The parts of the Southern heritage that was based on horror must be removed. This is why we had to work together to change the name from Nathan Bedford Forrest to Westside High School. We brought children out to win that victory. But first we had to teach the children what the Confederacy and these monuments represent. All right. These monuments represent a man being able to rape black children at will. A poor couple could be in their beds and a white man could come in and have his way with your wife and the law will do nothing about it. A slaver could hang your father or mother upside down in front of the entire family, beat them like they are children, sometimes to death. The law would do nothing about it. That is why that is what these monuments represent. That is the Southern heritage that we must expose and destroy. So I say one more time, you're going to have to help me out so everybody can hear. I am a Southerner. Okay, let's do it this way. I am a Southerner. I am a Southerner. Take them down. Take them down, all right? We're going to start low. We're going to do it 3 times. We're going to low, then middle, then scream it, all right? I am a Southerner. Take them down. I am a Southerner. Take them down. I am a Southerner. Take them down.
All right, thank you so much, Opio. All right, this next speaker is Judy Shecklin. She is with the National Organization of Women. They're working for equality. She was just over in Tallahassee working for equality. Give it up for Judy Shecklin.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. And thank you for having this wonderful rally to show what Jacksonville really looks like. Give yourselves a hand. The National Organization for Women have been fighting for women's rights since 1966. Now its pursuit is equality and justice, and we recognize that combating racism, oppression, and injustice is paramount. You know, we need to acknowledge that the brutal treatment of the enslaved, the torturous conditions they endured, and the obscenity that the kidnapping and enslaving of African people, that's part of the history of this nation. White wealth in the South was built upon their backs. We must honor their memories. In a plantation museum, the items on display, they included shackles, branding irons, leg chains, whips, cat-o'-nine tails, and the ledgers that put a monetary value on each enslaved human who lived there. This period is a stain on our nation. This person who was counted as a financial piece was the wealth of the plantation owner. Monuments also belong in that museum to remind us of the tragedy and the cruelty people are capable of inflicting. Yeah. In our city, state, and nation, we continue to witness racism and unequal treatment of people of color. And it might be more subtle than slavery, but it persists nevertheless. In Jacksonville, examples abound. Ticketing people for walking while black. I mean, doing that very dangerous thing of trying to cross a street, and this persists. And, you know, causing people's licenses to be revoked so that the impact of that ticket is far-reaching continues. It is unacceptable. Right. On the state level, we see more. We see gerrymandering. Several of us spent this last week in Tallahassee. One of the things we were lobbying for was to replace the monument of Confederate General Edmund Kirby Smith with a monument to Mary McLeod Bethune. Yeah. She's an American educator, a statesman, a philanthropist, a humanitarian, and a civil rights leader. And we spoke to the whole delegation, and we know that Senator Audrey Gibson and Tracy Davis, they supported this. We can be proud of those representatives. But worse than that, I mean, worse than people in our delegation opposing it was when we spoke to Jay Fant, because his rep, his aide said, oh, well, you know, we don't think that should be changed. In fact, we have our own bill, and it's called Soldiers and Heroes Monuments and Memorials Protection Act. And that will prohibit the removal of any of these Confederate statues. And so we need to call him. His phone number, if you have your phones out, is 850-717-5015. He needs to hear from all of us. 850-717-5015. Representative Fant needs to hear from the people of Jacksonville about how we feel about protecting those monuments. We don't want them anywhere.
Take them down.
Take them down.
Take them down.
And finally, let's remember there's a racist in the White House. Vote him out. When we have a president who appoints white supremacists, calls the 54 nations of the African continent, Haiti and El Salvador, an obscenity, attacks athletes who exercise their right to support justice, tries to suppress the voting rights of people of color, and is loved by white supremacists and Nazis. We have a problem. He wants to welcome the Norwegians. Well, let me tell you, they do not want to come here while he's in the White House. Finally, to continue to have monuments to those who fought to maintain the barbaric practice of enslaving people, it's insulting to the entire community, but even more severely to those whose ancestors were subject to this inhumane treatment. It's horrible, and it's an ongoing reminder of the brutality and subjugation that African Americans suffered and how those attitudes are expressed today. So please, let us all join together and speak truth to power. Take them down.
Take them down.
Take them down, 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 take them down. All right, y'all sound beautiful right now. So our next speaker is a recent graduate of Stanton College Prep School who is currently attending the University of Central Florida. She co-founded the Intersectional Youth Revolutionary Coalition and is an organizer with the Knights Inspiring Consciousness and Knowledge and the Student Labor Action Project at UCF. You guys please make some noise for Miss Valerie Starks.
How you feel? My name is Valerie, and I'm a proud native of Jacksonville, Florida. I was born here, I went to school here, and I've grown to love my city more and more, thanks in large part to all of you. Thank you for working to dismantle the systems that oppress us and create a community that builds on a foundation of equity and equality for all. 5 years ago, I had the privilege of attending Kirby Smith Middle School. I entered in 2010 wanting to be an engineer and left in 2013 aspiring to be a documentary filmmaker. I loved my time at Kirby. I had incredible teachers, met some of my closest friends, grew as a leader, fell in love with film and graphic design, and began the long process of decolonizing my mind. My diploma says Stanton, but I cannot deny the significance of those 3 years of my life at Kirby Smith. And yet, as much as I love my school and the people in it, I was acutely aware of the profound irony of attending a predominantly black school named after a Confederate general. I played basketball against kids from Jefferson Davis and Jeb Stewart, and most of my Kirby classmates graduated from Robert E. Lee High School. And to add insult to injury, students are allowed to leave without being formally taught about how these schools' names are a vestige of white supremacy. I'm sure that if you asked them if they want their school to be named after a Confederate general, the overwhelming majority would say no. This is a symptom of larger problems with society's disregard for black and brown lives, the way history is taught, and which perspectives are centered and omitted. It was Marcus Garvey who once said, "A people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots." Our understanding of history is paramount to understanding ourselves and where we fit in within the greater context of the human narrative. To uphold monuments dedicated to people who defended the enslavement of an entire race of people, to propagate the lost cause narrative and paint Confederate traitors in heroic light, is to co-sign to racism and tell people of color that our voices don't matter, that our experiences don't matter, that we don't matter. So we must do better. We will do better. So let's take them down, Jacks, be a start. When I say take them, you say down. Take them! Down! Take them! Down! Thank you.
Take them down. Our next speaker is Samir Gupta. He is the ALCU Regional Organizer for Northeast Florida. Give it up for Samir.
Good afternoon. Thanks for being out here today. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you about the Confederate monuments. I know the question about whether to remove or retain them has already been decided in most people's minds, more realistically in their hearts. And rational points aren't going to make those change or go away. All the arguments have been made in city council, on social media, at dinner tables, and there's some compelling reasons from both sides depending upon what they learned, how they were brought up, and their own life experiences. But I want to talk to you today about two things: states' rights and the South today. I think we probably all learned in school that the South seceded because they wanted to have states' rights, and that's probably correct, right? But what did they want those rights to do? Did they want a particular trade or tax policy? Nope. Did they want women to have the right to vote? Hell no. Did they want to legalize marijuana? Hell no. The answer is no to all of those. They wanted a specific right, and they wanted the right to own human beings as property and to treat them as property. That's what the Confederacy was started for. That's what those who are honoring, those whose statues are up, that's what they fought for. And that right was based upon a fundamental belief system that was shared by Alexander Stephens, who was the vice president of the Confederacy. He laid this out in Savannah in March of 1861. And he said, the new Constitution of the Confederacy has put at rest forever all the questions relating to our particular institution, African slavery, as it exists amongst us, the proper status of the Negro in our form of civilization. This was the immediate cause of the last rupture in the present revolution. So he's telling us this is why the Civil War took place. He also says that the ideas entertained by Jefferson and the other leading statesmen at the time of the formation of the original Constitution, that the enslavement of the African was in violation of nature and that was wrong on the principles of social and moral and political grounds. He also said that was wrong. He basically, essentially, and specifically said the new government, the Confederacy, was founded on exactly the opposite idea, that the Negro is not equal to the white man. That's what the Confederacy was about. That's what all these Confederate leaders took an oath to protect and defend. That's what these statues stood for then, and that's what they stand for now. Keeping them up in public spaces continues to champion that idea. The belief that the races were not equal may have been fundamental to the Confederacy, but it's not fundamental to the United States of America, right? It's time that these statues that honor those leaders of Confederacy be removed from public spaces and be put in other places. The time has come to what? To what? And to our Southern sisters and brothers who want to keep them in place, who feel like removing them is going to attack their heritage or dishonor their culture, I'd ask you to think about Southern culture today and how much it pervades the whole country. The best of Southern culture, literature, music, food, politics, TV shows, it's all over the country. I don't know of any northern food that's coming to the South, but Southern food's all over the country. I don't know of any northern music that's coming to the South, but country music is being played in New York City and Chicago. Walmart, Coca-Cola, institutions in the South are all over the country. The South is rising again, just in different, more modern ways. Job creation is flowing south. People are moving south. Migration is coming south. The South is still alive and well, the best of the South. So we might occupy the same space as all of us here in Hemmings Park and in life, but we have different realities. So I'd ask our politicians and our brothers and sisters in the back of the park, hello, to consider the realities of those whose ancestors bore the brunt of the constitutional and cultural belief system of the Confederacy and the impact of seeing those statues every day. Finally, for those who feel like removing the statues is the first step to, quote, replacing them, that's what the marchers in Charlottesville were saying, was they were going to be replaced. I'd ask you to consider this. I'd ask you to consider who still makes all the decisions at the federal, state, and local level about life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for all Americans and those who want to become Americans. Best as I can tell, it's married, straight, Christian, white males, regardless of the strength of their moral strength or failings. They're the ones that still make all the decisions, and removing the statues is not going to change the power structure in this country, but it will provide a more welcoming South, which is what Southern hospitality is all about, right? Yeah. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do? It's time that these statues come down and be removed from places in public spaces. They stood and fought for a belief and practice that has no place in modern-day America, no place in Florida, and no place in Jacksonville. Elected officials who champion that position maintain this idea that the races are unequal. That's what we're saying by keeping them up. Is that what we want 21st century Jacksonville to be? No! So what are we going to do? Take them down! What are we going to do? Take them down! What are we going to do?
Take them down!
Thank you.
Thank you, Samir Gupta. Y'all want to learn a little song? All right. Take them down, take them down. We don't want your racist statues in our town. Take them down. Take them down. We don't want your racist statues in our town. Take them down. All right. This next speaker is Mike Sampson. He's an organizer with the Jacksonville Community Action Committee. He's a co-founder of Florida-based civil rights organization, The Dream Defenders. He's a union organizer. You might have seen him on Fox News trying to keep Nazis out of UNF. Give it up for Mike Sampson.
Y'all look fired up. Y'all fired up? We fired up? We fired up. We can't take it no more. We fired up? We fired up? It goes, we fired up, we can't take it no more. We fired up, we can't take it no more. We fired up!
Can't take it no more.
We fired up!
Can't take it no more.
Y'all fired up!
Can't take it no more.
We 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 fired up!
Can't take it no more.
Y'all fired up!
Can't take it no more.
That's it. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. My name is Michael Sampson. I'm with the Jacksonville Community Action Committee, and I'm out here to unite with everyone and say, take them down, take them down, take them down. So I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. I grew up on the north side. I went to North Shore Elementary. I went to Kirby Smith Middle School. I went to Andrew Jackson High School. So whenever these folks, these losers who support these statues want to say that we're not from here, well, we are from here. I grew up off of Pearl Street. I grew up going to a school named after Confederate generals, Kirby Smith Middle School. I went to a school named after Andrew Jackson, an all-black high school named after a genocidal maniac. And that's why I'm here. This is our city. This is our town. So whenever they want to call us outsiders, you tell them, this is my city, this is our city, and we came here to take them down. Take them down.
Take them down.
Take them down.
Take them down.
Take them down.
Take them down.
Awesome. So with the Jacksonville Community Action Committee, one thing we fight here is against police crimes. We see every day, we live under a banner of white supremacy in Jacksonville. It's no coincidence that where you have all these Confederate monuments, you have a Jim Crow-like police department, which harasses people, which gives African Americans, 55% of African Americans of the tickets given out given to African Americans. You see black people killed on the street with impunity. You see no accountability coming from downtown, from the sheriff's office. In my opinion, in Jacksonville, we have 3 pillars of white supremacy. That is the mayor's office, the sheriff's office, and the state attorney's office. And it's no surprise that we see racist policing. We see how our communities aren't given the investment they deserve. We see how certain parts of town get all the money, get all the development, while the north side, while the west side, while the towns with people of color get nothing. That is white supremacy. That is white supremacy. And it's no surprise that in the same city named after a genocidal white supremacist with white supremacist statues, you see Jim Crow policing. That's why we're here to say, take them down. Take them down. Take them down. That's why we're here, and that's why we're going to keep staying. We have an injustice system, and we must keep fighting. With the CAC, we're demanding community control of the police or a Jacksonville Police Accountability Council. So it isn't just one person, one sheriff making the decisions on if a cop is guilty for killing us. It isn't just one person, the state attorney's office, in charge of getting justice for our families. We need to make ourselves be the people in power. We got to hold ourselves accountable and hold those in power accountable. That is the only way we can keep fighting for freedom and fighting for justice. We have a sheriff who supports Donald Trump. We have a mayor who supports Donald Trump. So where have they been on Walking While Black? Where have they been on these racist statues? They support them. It's pretty obvious they support the status quo. Well, Jacksonville is the bold new city of the South. And to make it more bold, we're going to take them down. Take them down! Take them down. Take them down. So just so y'all know that whenever you're out there fighting, whenever you're out there struggling for greater, whenever you're fighting against white supremacy, I will be there. The Jacksonville Community Action Committee will be there. These people looking everywhere around you will be there. But one thing we know is that we need more of us. We got to get more people engaged in this movement. Because look at us, we got around 200 people out here. Give yourselves a round of applause for coming out here and when it's supposed to rain. But the next time we come out here, we need to bring thousands. We are building a movement of millions around the nation. We got to change this country and start first and foremost by changing this city. So I'm gonna end this with a chant, and I hope y'all kind of know it. What do we want? When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. If we don't get it, shut it down. 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 How about this? How about this? How about this? Take him down. No, shut it down. Take him 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 down. Take them down. Take them down. Take them down. Take them down. Take him down. Take him down. Take him down. Take them down. Take out. Take him down. Take him down. Take him down.
All right, you guys make some noise for Mike Sampson, man. Get you all fired up. Without further ado, you guys may have heard of this amazing collective. Stono Echo is in the building to make some beautiful sounds for you guys. Y'all ready for that? Yeah. All right.
I'm not sure yet. Okay. All right. Yes.
Check. If you can hear my voice, say, take them down. All right. My name is Jay Maestro, and I'm one half of the group Stono Echo. I come before you with the power of my ancestors standing with me, the true victims of a lot of what these statues represent. So right now we're going to give some music coming through my soul, and I hope you can feel it. If you wonder to yourself why these statues still exist in this day and age, I want you to say, what's the deal? What's the deal? Say, what's the deal? What's the deal? It's America. But that represents the Confederate States of America. Say, what's the deal? What's the deal? Again, what's the deal? What's the deal? Oh! What's the deal? What's the deal? It don't take much but being black and young for a man to kill you. No! Say, what's the deal? What's the deal? See, we expect education from the same man that's trying to steal you. So, but now, you know, something's up the sleeve, and I can't breathe. No, I can't breathe. You see, it's all system. That's right, sister. Designed to make sure not a one miss there. They hold
got to go. And that is right. Now party people in the place to be. This is hard work, and we know that. So this next song is called Working. These people, take them down, Jacks. They been putting work in. So if y'all ready to put work in, I want y'all to come with me with this chant. Come on. When I say working, y'all say working, working, working. If y'all ready to put work in, and say working, 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 working.
There came a day my rate of pay took backseat to my goals. I work for me or JLBs have to enrich my soul. Evoke my gifts, uplift my spirit, skills and knowledge soul. Time's just too precious. Cause I remember when working started with an 8. All it takes just to wake snooze button time 8. To the lane, what a waste, quick pace, haste, rushing to a place you hate, clock it. Still late, not pay, boss fake that you cooperate with them, but chasing cheese in this rat race. Face the mirror and be hurt. I realized it wasn't worth it. Cause working even gotta feel like working at all. No, said it ain't even gotta feel like working at all. At all. Y'all ready to put work in? Say working, 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 working. In actuality, it's got self-value. What's your hours worth? Way more than capes of gold or earthly bursts of purposeful. So as the clock ticks more, acts of positively. I'ma need that healthy check, cause I remember working for a blood. Everybody drunk packed, but the owner won't give it up. Never a fair cut of late nights, hours from your home for a long song worthy of a phone call. Barely make a dub after 6-way cut. Now we're out with nuts, still waiting on some chunks. Wake up in the morning hurt. I realized it wasn't worth it, cause getting paid like this ain't working at all. I'm certain that getting good pay ain't gotta feel like working at all. If you love what you kid, it won't feel like working. Nope, at all, at all, at all. No. It's so good to see y'all out here quit working. Come with the Lord, y'all. Y'all. When I say working, y'all say working, 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 working. When I've been working, working, working. That's right. This next song, it's called Yesterday. We protest in ranks. They drive armored tanks. See the police state. Tear gas on my face. Crying acid rain. But they are both to blame for our marching cause and this poisonous smog. Well, it just seems like a trick to me. These choices of the free. Police occupy communities and the body count increase. It's like it's week after week, north to west, south to east. It's just me who feel the heat. Mortality, I think you breathe a switch fatality. Switch fatality. This song is about injustice. And sometimes it's the very police, like the gentleman before me said. Institutionalized racism exists in all of the facets. And it's so sad. Please, put your hands together. Come on! They got blood all on their hands, but no one gives a damn. Gets no protection from their documents. Amendment ONE grants rights to assembly. Though we march in peace, the body count increased. Well, it just seems like a trick to me. These choices
of the free. Police occupy communities and the body count increased. It's like it's week after week, north to west, south to east. It's just we who feel the heat. Mortality, I think it made a switch fatality. Oh! Give it up for yourselves, y'all. We come together in peace, and that's what matters today. Well, bless y'all. Thank you for listening, y'all. We all Stone on Echo. I'm just so grateful to be here for this cause.
When I say take 'em, you say down. Take 'em, take 'em. When I say take 'em, you say down. Take 'em, take 'em. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Y'all give it up one more time for Stone on Echo, man. Amazing, amazing, amazing. If you haven't heard them, please go look them up. It's a riveting experience every time that man sings, man. So we'll keep it going. Our next speaker is the pastor of Mount Sinai Missionary Baptist Church and a state director for the African American Ministers in Action. He is a retired public school teacher and is retired from the U.S. Army. Pastor Gundy has 14 years of experience working with nonprofit organizations specializing in advocacy for juvenile justice and civil rights issues, and he supported the expansion of the HRO in Jacksonville. So I need you guys to put your hands together for Reverend R.L. Gundy.
I took my time to put these notes together, so I'm going to take my time and get it out. But first, let me say to the young people that are out here, I'm so glad to see you here and see what you're doing. Fred Shuttlesworth said to me one day, walking out my home, he said, Gundy, he said, Jacksonville is the last Birmingham of the South. If you change Jacksonville, you change America. So what you are doing here is more important than you can imagine. So I'm tired. I've been tired, but I'm so glad to see you young people here doing what you're doing. So what is the moral question and the right thing to do? This is the question that has to be answered as it relates to the Confederate statues and flags and the faces of our beloved Jacksonville. I'm a native from Jacksonville. I love Jacksonville. I'm a native from Florida. I love Florida. I was born in America, so I love America. I fought for America, but I did not fight for this racist, no good, low down, dirty stuff they call the Confederacy. So since they love Robert E. Lee, Robert E. Lee opposed Confederate monuments since allegiance to the Union was important. He said, it is wiser not to keep open the sores of war, but to follow the examples of nations who chose to obliterate the marks of civil strife. The Civil War was civil strife. We don't need to remember that by hanging up flags, talking about you hate blacks and walking around being a white supremacist. Republicans, Democrats, nor independents of any political party will be allowed to evade the moral responsibility of taking down the monuments and statues of Confederacy on public properties. If you want them, put them in a museum somewhere. But don't use my tax dollars to keep them up. Paul Waldman said it well. Most Republicans aren't vulgar or stupid enough to say what the president said, reference the neo-Nazis, the white supremacists, the racists and Confederate supporters in Charlottesville, or call our mothers SOBs. Let me put that in perspective. When the rump that y'all called the Trump called those football players' mothers SOBs, he was talking to all of us. But they play on similar games trying to not to defend despicable racists and defending the indispensable, all in the name of calling it history. and remembering my ancestry. So let's go on the evangelical side. You need to march down to First Baptist, knock on Brunson's door, and tell him to take that rebel flag down out of his office. Now let me remind you, it was Pence that showed up to First Baptist. So if he was flying the flag and Pence showed up, that tell me that Pence is no better than the Rump, and the Rump is no better than Bronson. Let me go on a little further. So Vice President Pence argued on the side of history as something that just happened. Slavery did not just happen. Jim Crow did not just happen. Lynching my ancestors did not just happen. So historically speaking, the erection of these statues and symbols of Confederacy was erected during a time when whites in the South were committed to assert white supremacy, and most at the end of Reconstruction was another wave of erections during the Civil Rights Movement in the 1950s and the 60s. That was not history related, but a spirit of defiance, a spirit of hate, and a spirit of heavy dose of racism. Now our mayor, now our city council, and even the southern white religious system with First Baptist downtown in particular are upholding a culture and calling it history. It is so deeply racist that laws are on the books to prohibit renaming roads from Confederate figures. This is immoral. The Declaration of the Southern States made it clear that Confederacy was formed and the Civil War began so the Southern States could perpetuate the practice of chattel slavery. Read in the state's declaration, every single Southern state Declaration of Secession makes it clear that slavery was the primary issue around which all other political issues revolved. So then, Texas declared, we hold as undeniable truths that the governments of various states and of the Confederacy itself were established exclusively by the white race for themselves and their prosperity, that the African race had no agency in their establishment, that they were rightfully held and regarded as an inferior and independent race. Some of my ancestors would tell them to go straight to. And in that condition, only could their existence in this country be rendered beneficial or tolerable. By the secession of 6 of the slave-holding states and the certainty that others would steadily do likewise, Texas had no alternative but to remain in an isolated connection with the North or unite here her destinies with the South. Jacksonville is embedded in racism. It has been embedded in racism for a long time. So here lies the moral issues. Should they remain in our city based upon the purpose that they were erected? They fought to remain slavery, which was morally abominable. This requires moral clarity. When you do something terrible such as slavery, Jim Crow, lynch people, beat people, treat them inhumanly, we examine it and explore it and remember it. But we should not celebrate it.
That's right.
While at the same time, evangelicals, politicians of the believers in Christ, sang the song Amazing Grace, but failed to apply the moral principle of the meaning behind the song. The man who penned Amazing Grace was a captain of a slave ship. And God pricked his conscience and touched his heart. And he repented of what he had done and said that what he was doing was wrong. So he penned the songs, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now we're trying to, I don't hate my sisters and brothers who fly that flag. We're trying to just get you to repent of your sins. I don't need it now. I'm closing. So Mayor Lenny Curry, because here's where the issue lies.
That's right.
City Council, here's where the issue lies.
Tell it like it is.
Members and fellow human beings that support keeping those symbols of hatred and racism up.
Yeah.
Where is the moral fiber? Where is your heart? How do you explain this to your children and your grandchildren? That you upheld racism, that you upheld bigotry, and you upheld hatred. This would not be morally and ethically correct. It requires a moral and ethical decision. Jesus would tell you, take it down. I stopped by to tell you, take it. I want to let you know, if they don't take it down, we're not going away. You have the ballot. You have the right to vote. You have the right to change. I would not stop until it all comes down. Take it down. Take it down. Take it down. Take it down. God bless you. God bless you. And thank you for that little historical perspective.
All right. Take it down. Take them down. All right. Thank you, Reverend Rawls. Thank you, Reverend Gundy. We're about to say thank you, Reverend Rawls. All right. This next speaker coming up is Haneen Ali. She just moved here from Tampa, where they just took them down. She's a Palestinian rights activist working with Students for Justice in Palestine and the Jacksonville Palestinian Solidarity Network. Give it up for Haneen.
Thank you everybody for coming out here. I know it was raining, but thank you for making it. You know we had to bring Palestine here, right? Woo! I'm a proud Palestinian woman. I come from a family of refugees. My grandmother was 8 years old when the Israeli army rampaged through villages, massacring the native population, the Palestinian population, to make way for a white Zionist Jewish nation. At 8 years old, she was thrown onto a truck from her village in Haifa and taken to Jordan, never to see her house again. My mother was born in a refugee camp. She saw people murdered at 6 years old because we were the wrong ethnicity. You see, this isn't about a statue or a park or a name of a building. This is a moral issue. This is about the glorification and normalization of white supremacy. This is about white supremacy that stretches from Hemming Park to Israel. The acceptance of white supremacy, normalizing and celebrating it, affects black people and people of color all over the world. From Jacksonville to Palestine, white supremacy dehumanizes our children. From Jordan Davis to Ahed Tamimi, the lives of our youth are stolen. They take a back seat to injustice. And let me tell you about Ahed Tamimi. Ahed is a 16-year-old warrior that is sitting in an Israeli jail for daring to slap a soldier in the face after her 14-year-old cousin was shot in the face earlier that day. There are black and Palestinian children sitting in jail cells right now instead of enjoying their childhood. They're made to be heroes and symbols for justice against white supremacy. It is time to do the right thing. How much longer must our cries for justice be silenced, ignored, or forgotten? This national fight to remove shrines of white supremacy that idolizes the suffering of black Americans is at our doorstep. Like Orlando, like St. Pete, like Sarasota, like Lakeland, like Tampa, what will we do here in Jacksonville? The opportunity to come together as a community and do the right thing is now upon us. There is a difference in honoring oppressors and remembering history. To be taught and remember the plight of Black people during the Civil War era, one does not need a statue in the public eye. So now we say, back up, we want freedom, freedom. All these racist statues, we don't need them. Back up, we want freedom, freedom. All these racist statues, we don't need them. Back up, we want freedom, freedom. All these racist statues, we don't need them. Thank you.
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Before I introduce our next speaker, what I want to say is, what you hear in the background is the death throes of the Confederacy. What you hear in the background is another knife in the heart of white supremacy. Our next speaker comes from St. Augustine. Do all of you remember what happened in St. Augustine back in the 60s? With Dr. King? Our next speaker is the pastor of St. Paul AME Church, the church that Dr. King marched from. The church that Dr. King marched from. The church that he put his life on the line to march from. But Reverend Bowles is putting his life on the line right now in St. Augustine. I can tell you this. We marched the night they put the lights on in St. Augustine. We had no idea how many people would be out there. But there are thousands out there to see the lights. Well, they saw us. They saw us and they heard us. And when they put those lights on, over 200 people began to speak and sing, lift every voice and sing. And when we left that march, we had 200 more people marching with us. So Reverend Rawls is working tirelessly to get these statues down. And I want to introduce you to him. He's doing a great job down there. We need to support him. We need to go down there when he's doing something, and they need to come up here when we're doing something. Because this is a nationwide effort, a statewide effort. Bring you Reverend Rawls.
We are here today because of self-absorbed, egocentric people that have modified and whitewashed history to glorify and revere racist traitors in public spaces. Anywhere else, this would be seen as unbelievable. But as Don King often says, only in America. Jeremiah chapter 22, verses 1 through 5. In the Message Bible,
It says God's orders. Go to the royal palace. That's your city commission meeting. That's your mayor's office. Go to the royal palace and deliver this message. Say, listen to what God says. O King of Judah, you who sit on David's throne, you and your officials and all the people who go in and out of these palace gates, that's your city manager, the elected officials. This is God's message. Attend to the matters of justice. Set things right between people. Rescue victims from their exploiters. Don't take advantage of the homeless, the orphans, the widows. Stop murdering. If you obey these commands, then kings who follow in the line of David will continue to go in and out of these palace gates on mounted horses and riding in chariots. They and their officials and the citizens of Judah. But this is what God says to elected officials, government appointees, hired officials, that if you don't do right by people, this is what God says. If you don't obey these commands, then I swear God's decree, this palace will end up in a heap of rubble. This city will end up in a heap of rubble. This state and this country will end up in a heap of rubble if you don't do justice and do right by the people of God. First thing I want to tell you about is wolves in sheep's clothing. Many connected to the evangelical church who have hypocritically desecrated the faith that looks to the cross for redemption, justice, and understanding. They have continued to infect sleeping worshipers with a self-serving plantation theology that teaches the Negro to be docile and passive on issues of systemic racism and social injustice. A false plantation theology that subconsciously teaches our white brothers and sisters that somehow God created them superior to others. That's what they're being taught in the evangelical church. And every one of you all that sit in those churches that provide those teachings, you're the problem also. Because you support the teachings. Many of those connected to this evangelical church are frauds and have forms of godliness, but denying the true power of Christianity. A power that says, before I prepare to remove the speck from someone else's eye, I must first give great attention to the beam that's in my eye. I said plainly. I hear you, Reverend. The gospel tells us to sweep around our own front door. I hear you, Reverend. Unjust governmental leaders is my second point. God addresses cowardly public officials choosing popularity over justice. Cowardly public officials that cater and pander to historical oppressors while telling the historically oppressed to get over it. God addresses public officials, the cowards that ceremonially honored Dr. King in 2018 by going to a breakfast and going to a lunch. But in 1964, they would have called him a nigger and a troublemaker. There are those who criticize my approach They say a preacher shouldn't talk like I talk. A preacher shouldn't walk like I walk. A preacher shouldn't speak like I preach. They criticize my approach and constantly call for love, unity, and peace. My question to them is peace at whose expense? Dr. Martin Luther King was quoted with this statement concerning St. Augustine in 1964. He said the request of the grand jury in St. Augustine was an immoral one. It asked the Negro community to give all and the white community to give nothing. Yes. To any and every one under the sound of my voice that questions the validity of my calling as a man of God, because I don't model the template designed by your ancestors on the plantation under the teachings of Willie Lynch. I look you in the eyes. I look you in the eyes. I look you in the eyes. I look you in the eyes with divine defiance. I look you in the eyes with a raised fist. They might not have voted to take them down, but if they don't take them down, I declare that we will shut it down. Cowardly government officials, shut it down. Every fake and phony plantation practicing Christian, shut it down. To every Negro that declares we is sick when the master gets sick, shut it down. Shut it down. To every tourist industry and tourist that comes to St. Augustine, shut it down. Shut it down. To business as usual in Duval, shut it down. 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 To every racist Confederate flag bearing individual, shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down. To every bigot, shut it down. Shut it down. To the President of the United States, T. Rump voters, shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down. To every liar that breeds hatred, shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down. To every lying Christian that's messed up the religion, shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down. There's a new Negro in town. There's a new Negro in town. Shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down. There are new white brothers and sisters in town. There are new white brothers and sisters in town. Shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down. We ain't scared. Shut it down. Shut it down. We ain't running. Shut it down. We ain't trembling. Shut it down. Shut it down. We not double talking. Shut it down. 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 If you don't take them down, we will shut it down. You don't take them down, we will shut it down. You don't take them down, we will shut it down. You don't take them down, we will shut it down. Now come to me with that.
Mic drop. Mic drop. Y'all make some noise, man. Make some noise for that, man. If y'all not feeling the spirit of this, I don't know what you're doing here, man. Get into it. When I say take them, you say down. Take them. Down. Take them. Down. When I say take them, you say down. Take them. Down. Take them. Down. All right. We all still in here, right? We still here. And in full effect. It's getting a little quiet, but we still live. And we in here for it. So our next speaker is a Navy veteran, local activist, a Women's March Committee member and descendant of Confederate and Union soldiers.
Can you see it now?
You guys, and I see you, baby. You guys make some noise.
Can you see it now?
Philmon Allen, Jagged. All right.
Okay, so I knew I was following a preacher man, but good Lord, preacher, woo! You left it. That's like a mic drop, I think they call that out in the entertainment industry. So as some of you know, I'm a natural-born Floridian, having grown amongst the peanut farmers and the tobacco farmers in Northwest Florida. I am a descendant of Confederate and of Union soldiers. My ancestors are indigenous people and of white Europeans. And I'm a 27-and-a-half-year veteran of the United States Navy. During my public education, we were taught about the Northern aggression, about how the North wanted to break the back and the spirit of the South, how they burned our crops, killed our livestock, murdered our men, and wanted to leave us in such a state that the South would never recover. There was no mention of slavery in my public education. It was not until after I joined the military that my military friends informed me of the utter nonsense that I had been fed. And as I continued to learn or relearn so much of my inaccurate history, I began to wonder, what else might they have lied to me about? And I want y'all to know this. Had I not done the work about my family's history and about our nation's history, y'all, I would be standing back there holding a white pride flag right now. Tell me education is not important. According to the census, my Confederate ancestors were farm laborers, not owners, but they were laborers. And during the research of my ancestry, I've not been able to find anything that tells me exactly why my ancestors served. Perhaps they felt obligated to. Perhaps they were made to fight, as many were threatened with imprisonment or death. Thank you very much back there, my brother. Or perhaps they believed in the right to own another human being. I can't say for sure, but I do know that like many soldiers before and after them, y'all, once in battle, many are just fighting to stay alive. They're fighting to get back home, or they're fighting for the person to their left or to their right. And during the Civil War, very few rural farmers had access to newspapers, and many obtained their information by word of mouth. So who knows what the common man knew about the Civil War or their place in it? What I do know is that the Vice President of the Confederate States, Alexander Stephens, while delivering his cornerstone speech in March of 1861, was very clear that slavery was indeed the cornerstone of the Confederacy. So the Confederate leadership and the military leaders knew exactly what their cause and purpose was, and they ordered those throughout the South to come and fight. And I do realize, y'all, that this topic of moving our local statues, as well as the campaign to rename our schools, our streets, our buildings, and our city, has caused quite a stir of emotions in our local community. There's been this underlying message that we're trying to erase history or eradicate white culture. And I say to you what many of us already know. You cannot simply erase history, and in America, all culture is white culture.
That's right.
There are those who attempt to mislead and shame and bend this situation into one of disrespect towards veterans. This is not an attack on veterans. It is about ensuring that our public spaces are not used to portray a false narrative about our nation's history. I recently attended a town hall meeting with Diallo Seabrooks, who's actually running for District 8 City Council, where he reminded us that our black community members are trying to find their way in systems and institutions that were not designed for them. And I'll add my own personal comments and say that our white systems were actually designed to work against the black community. White society denied our black citizens access to education, but when they begin to learn to read, they begin to excel. And as soon as they did, we enacted separate but equal. And it was always separate, and it was never equal. When you spend $1.17 on a black kid's public education and $19 on a white child, there is no equality. We denied them access to religion, but for those who discovered it, they realized that God is theirs as well. And then we began to oversee their churches and their sermons so we could control their message. We said that they were free, but then we enacted laws that prevented the black man from speaking up for himself or for getting access to wages. And we began to criminalize the black man for every single thing we could to put him back in the very chains on the farms where he could not earn money. And for some slave owners that he had been freed from. And as soon as the black communities began to thrive, white men showed up to burn their homes and businesses and to assault and rape and murder our black citizens. We have stripped children from their mothers and fathers from their children and then judged the black community for having such a difficult time into assimilating to the white version of what it means to be a family. And today we wage war on the poor instead of a war on poverty. Too often my white ancestors, and some in our community today, I believe you'll find them in the rear, tell us to believe that our Native Americans, our black Americans, and our African American neighbors are savages, that they're prone to violence, addiction, substance abuse, and infidelity. I asked us all to consider this. Tell me who in our history has exhibited the behavior of a savage. I understand that there is chatter about the alt-right and the KKK coming to our city to cause a stir that some worry will result in violence like we saw visited upon Charlottesville. I say to you that if you are worried about racism coming to Jacksonville, you are a little too late. The whites who inflicted violence on our black youth and our citizens during Axe Handle Saturday did not come from somewhere else and then return there after the violence. They remained in our city, and without accountability, they've been waiting for their moment in the sun again. There is nothing that I'm going to say to anybody standing here in 5 minutes that is going to change anybody's heart or anybody's mind about this really highly charged issue. So I'll ask you to do one thing. Do the work. Go beyond Google. Go beyond the white history that writers have readily led us to believe. Seek out our neighbors who lived during the civil rights era, who can share stories with you that was shared to them by their parents, their grandparents, and their great-grandparents. Y'all, we have live history books living among us waiting for you to discover them. Attend local listening sessions, ask questions, challenge your preconceived notions. For years, the words of Minty, James Baldwin, Bayard Rustin, Thurgood Marshall, Ella Baker, Frederick Douglass, and so many others were hidden behind the shadowy figures and images created by white hands, minds, and hearts. And today, we have volumes of literature, hours upon hours of audio and video. We are learning that the history that has been fed to us is not accurate. The white man no longer holds the pen that writes our history in his hands. We, the people, hold that pen in our hands. In preparing my words for today, I wrote and rewrote, and I considered speaking about my Confederate ancestors' places of battles, their ultimate demise, and their place in history. But then I remembered, my people are dead. My people did not put up these stone soldiers and these monuments. People who came after them did that in an homage to white pride and left them behind as watchstanders of oppression, racial divide, and white supremacy. It is not an accident that stone fella there stands so high on his perch to keep watch over our community in hopes to maintain his place of superiority. As a descendant, I say, let my people rest. It is the people here today that need our time, our energy, and our willingness to work together for a better society. It is time to let the dead of 1864 take their place in history, and it is time to hear the whole history of our nation. I was asked to make a comment about the Daughters of the Confederacy during my speech, so I will make one comment. The president of the Daughters of the Confederacy of Florida, Ginger Ruttinger, made a public statement last year saying that she, too, believes that these monuments should be removed from public places and into private places, historical settings, and into cemeteries, which is where we normally honor our dead. A recent activist recently taught me something. He said, we cannot change the beginning, but folks, we can always change the end. So, in unison with the leaders of the Women's March Jacksonville, my fellow Confederate descendants, and just good, decent, honest white people, I say to you, it is time to remove, it is time to rename, it is time to replace, it is time to take them down. Take them all down. Take them down. Thank you.
Take them down! Take them down! All right, thank you, does not need any introduction. But he is the founder and the president of the North Side Coalition of Jacksonville. He has been in the news industry locally and nationally for over 50 years. You might have heard him speak at the Women's March last Sunday. And he's just one real great guy. So, give it up for Ben Frazier.
Oh, come on, you better wake this thing up. Take them down. I said, take them down. I said, take them down. I said, take them down. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is so good to have this opportunity to speak with you. I thought seriously about my comments. It is written that from the good treasure of a man's heart doth he speak, and I don't mind telling you, I got some gold and some silver laid up. Jacksonville must make a decision. The city of Jacksonville must make a major decision which will have major consequences. The city must decide whether to march into the sunlight of a brand new day or perish by its refusal to let go of its racist past and legacy. The issue of these monuments will be a turning point, a critical and crucial crossroads in the political life of this city. We've finally outgrown the clothing of a sleepy little southern town. The question is, are we going to continue to fight the Civil War with slogans like, put your ass in Dixie or get out? Do we want to say to these Confederate folks that we're going to just stay right where we are, stuck on stupid? The choice is ours to make. We must now begin to put on the clothing of a Super Bowl city with a Super Bowl mindset, a Super Bowl mentality, a Super Bowl attitude. We should be striving to become a thriving commercial metropolis that is too busy to hate, where all people are treated fairly. Confederate monuments, in terms of importance, this is a life or death issue for this city. We can either enact legislation to remove the monuments or allow the city to become another hotbed of racial controversy like Charlottesville. You remember Charlottesville, where a 20-year-old Nazi sympathizer rammed his car into the crowd, 19 people injured, but 32-year-old Heather Heyer lost her life. A paralegal working in Charlottesville, she was killed. Civic leaders should not allow Jacksonville to become center stage for the hate-filled white nationalist movement. If you put this on a referendum ballot, Jacksonville will become Charlottesville. The Unite the Right movement will destroy the moral and social fiber of this city. In his famous play called Hamlet, a writer by the name of William Shakespeare has Prince Hamlet delivering his world-famous soliloquy. In that speech, Hamlet, who is depressed and down and out, Hamlet ponders the question about living and dying. he ponders the question about his own life or death. Hamlet, you remember, says the words, to be or not to be. That is the question, whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against the sea of troubles and by opposing end them. To be or not to be. I suggest to you today that, like Hamlet, our city is on pause right now, pondering a life or death question. How are we going to begin to deal with racial issues, problems, and racial controversies like walking while black men unarmed being shot and killed in the streets under questionable circumstances? I say, come, let us reason together. Will Jacksonville choose the wisdom of a more abundant life, or will we stay stuck on stupid and continue to hold on to the city's hateful, racist past? Open letter. Dear Mayor Lenny Curry, one city, one Jacksonville. My question, to be or not to be. Signed, 280,000 black residents of Jacksonville, many of whom are registered voters. You may or may not be familiar with the lost cause of the Confederacy. It is a propaganda movement, a bogus, counterfeit, and immoral movement. Its aim is to bamboozle the media with meaningless polls and surveys, and to deliberately deceive our publicly elected officials. By contrast, our struggle is an attempt to finally set the record straight. The folks over there at City Hall need to wake up and smell the Maxwell House coffee. The mayor and the 19 members of the Jacksonville City Council should stop taking inventories of Confederate monuments, memorials, and statues. They need to stop tiptoeing and tap dancing around the truth. They should instead lead by example. It will take bold leadership on the part of the mayor and a courageous and unflinching stand from members of the Jacksonville City Council. We encourage them not to be afraid. Go ahead, introduce the legislation to remove these monuments. And let's talk about the tab. Let's call on private industry, the Jacksonville Chamber of Commerce, and the Jacksonville Civic Council to raise the money necessary to pay for the monument's relocation to a museum or private property. I ask the question, one city, one Jacksonville, to be or not to be. Feel our pain, Mr. Mayor. Feel our pain, City Council. We are the descendants of slaves. Our ancestors were degraded. Our ancestors were hated. Our ancestors were discriminated, humiliated, lynched, raped, and yes, even castrated. We are descendants of slaves. But don't you dare forget, we are 280,000 black Jacksonville citizens many of whom are registered voters. Those who are dressed in gray fought to keep us in chains and to keep us in pain. The supporters of the statute say you can't change history, but the history being told by these monuments is distorted and incomplete. Where are the memorials or monuments to all of the black Jacksonville citizens who were denied the right to vote? Where are those monuments? Where are the monuments to all of the black Jacksonville citizens who were forced to live in fear under legal segregation? Where are all the monuments to the Jacksonville citizens who were educated at schools with inferior books? Where are all the monuments to all of the Jacksonville citizens who were bruised, beaten, and brutalized, and yes, even lynched without trial? Jacksonville's history includes nationally known figures like James Weldon Johnson, A. Philip Randolph, Eartha M.M. White, and the story of Edward Waters, Stanton, Donnell Cookman, William Raines, Reboe, and Matthew W. Gilbert schools. We need to tell the whole story of Jacksonville's history. After 400 years of blood, sweat, and tears, we say Confederate monuments must be removed, must be relocated. We say one Jacksonville, one city, to be or not to be. That's the question. Thank you.
All right, you've heard some remarkable people here today. I want to say that this is an opening salvo to the movement to get these statues removed. I want to say to everyone who is here, besides going out and voting, I want you to sign up at these tables over here so you can become involved in the work to take these statues down. We can have rallies and we can have marches, but we got to put the force of those marches into action. And we need all of you to participate in what we're doing. So please sign up at these tables. I want to make a shout out, give a shout out to Tiki Graphics, who did our yard signs. If you don't have one, please purchase one before you leave here. I got one up in my yard. Tiki Graphics supports taking them down. Okay? This is the first rally. Now, I need to say this real quick. This is our first rally. And we gave you a show. We gave you a show to let you see what Jacksonville is like in the back. Our next rally, I can guarantee you, and I will guarantee you, that this won't be here. But we will have 2 to 4 speakers to blow them away. I also want to say, and I'm going to say this right now, the city misled us. They told us they wouldn't be in the park. Then they said, well, you invited everybody. You see, we're dealing with an institution. The institution of law enforcement, which is racist.
That's right.
And we all have to know and understand that when we see it. So once again, get involved, please. Our next speaker is a community artist. She will be doing a spoken word. And then we will hear a number from Stone Echo. And then we will hold our raffle. Please, everybody, buy a ticket. If you haven't bought one, buy a ticket. Okay. Okay. So please welcome Cheech.
All right. So can everybody hear me out there? Okay. Because I'm gonna do this piece, and it's gonna require a little bit of attention. So if you guys can just focus this way, that would be most appreciated. I saw somebody earlier with a sign that said, I believe Florida was the largest, had the largest lynchings per capita. Florida did between 1880 and 1940. And I saw that sign while I was standing here, and I had wrote it pretty much based off of that. So if you know the song "Strange Fruit" by Billie Holiday, all right, say less. I got you. Southern trees bear strange fruit. Blue spoke that over me as if she knew what would be running through my mind. Washing the stains that have permanently blinded me. Silenced by the gust of wind pushing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The monumental memory of our truth. Blood on the leaves, blood at the root. They see us as thieves, robbing their proof that heritage reigns and has given us pride. Picnics and parades, hospitality-wise, you'd think we'd be the same. But while denial begins the minstrel tune that cadences and needs, my nerves had left when the bird crowed at the black body swinging in the southern breeze. See, the word history's second definition is a whole series of pasts connected with someone or something. So when you say my history, that's not with the undercutting tone to wash out the blood-stained, neck-strained, tied up, beaten down, cut short, set back. This world ain't for you. We brought you here, but we want you gone. Fill your life with fear. Rape all of your women. Break down all of your men. See freedom as a privilege activated only through skin, but you see, you are less than human. History is to be days that are golden, erected reminders of our pride once stolen, and yet, in spite of the shame of our own yesterdays, these I have no fear in saying. Dear pastoral scene of this gallant South, we bring vision to the back, to the bulging eyes, voices through the twisted mouths, the scent of freedom we seek without rest, no longer hiding the scent of our ancestors' burning flesh. I'm gonna say that again. The scent of freedom we seek without rest, we no longer are hiding the scent of our ancestors' burning flesh. We have since born new harvests for our babies to rise and pluck. We no longer feel the rain together as wind begins to suck. We now shine in the sun, leaving inferiority and chains to rot, hoisting up the pain that holds our history in knots. In the soil where we've stomped, where we've marched, asking simply to be here. You see, the swinging 60s might differ to some, while one might remember Woolworths and go-go dances, axe handles and billy clubs played the beat to our drums. So when you say history is ours, it is ours too. Weaved underneath the southern sky, whose trees contain the truth, the bitter taste that lingers where ignorance is nothing than meek. Southern trees brave, southern trees bear strange fruit, but our victory will be sweet. Thank you. When I say take them, you say down. Take them, down. Take them, down. When I say take them, you say down. Down. Take them, down. One more time. I'm loud for everybody in the back. When I say take them, you say down. Take them. Down. Take them. Down. When I say take them, you say down. Take them. Down. Take them. Down. All right.
We're not worried about this rain. This was a wonderful day, wasn't it, y'all? Y'all make some noise. Once again, we on Stono Echo, and I'd like to end tonight or today rather, on a song about coming out of a dark time and going into a state of sunshine. Can y'all come with me on that? Yeah. Right on, let's do it.
See, yesterday's behind me and tomorrow's in my grasp. The present I'm unwrapping is a broken mirror of my past. So I'm grateful for the now and the joy that I allow to fill me up. My cup is running over. I'm in a state of sunshine. Ooh, I'm in a state of sunshine. Y'all feel it? Y'all can clap with me. 'Cause I'm in love. I'm in love. I'm in love. I'm in love with sunshine. Ooh, I'm in love with sunshine. I'm in love with sunshine. Through searching, I've been finding debris of anger, fear, and hate. But now I'm on a highway to a righteous interstate. So I'm grateful for the now and the joy that I allow to fill me up. My cup is running over. I'm in a state of sunshine. Ooh, I'm in a state of sunshine. Subjectivity to provinces of pain. You see, I dwell within the pity city in towns of self this day. But oh, in my soul, I lose this jackfruit. Well, before valiantly struggle across the bridge over troubled waters. Now my coldest nights are warm with sunshine. I'm in a state of sunshine. I'm in a state, sunshine, yeah. Y'all have a good time today, y'all? Yeah. When y'all say take them, y'all say down, take them, down, take them, down, take them, down. Or once again, when I say take them, y'all say down, take them, down, take them, down, take them, down, take them, down. The more missteps I stride it, the more I pierced and tried it. Myself of selves I blinded myself to see the facts. But now I've been enlightened. Oh, how sunshine enlivens. Perceptions could amount to where you're gone in this ride at. So now at the violet, in every rainbow I get, 'cause sunshine had to flex. Thank y'all so much. We appreciate y'all. I'm excited tonight, y'all.
Last call for getting your raffle tickets. Anybody, go on over there. All right, you want to do some dance real fast while we're getting it together? Hell yeah. You leaving? When we say take them, you say down. Take them. Down. Take them. Down. Take them. Down. Take them. Down. All right, we got a hashtag take them down. No racist statues in our town. Hashtag take them down. No racist statues in our town. Hashtag take them down. No racist JSL. Thank you to all the people who have been tabling. Please check them out. Please support what they have come here to help us support. Volunteer. And now we're going to start pulling raffles. All right, the first one for Jags tickets. Ticket number 468387 Yeah? Seriously? For real? Yeah? All right. You got the winner for that. All right. The second gift, which is the food gift card to a restaurant. 468381 468381 Is that somebody claiming that? Going once? Going twice? We're drawing again. All right. 4683 902. 902? All right. There we go. She's getting the gift card. Third one. There you are. Boutique and Sephora gift card. 4683 909 is the last number. We got it. All right. And then the last one, which is for a Take 'em Down Jack shirt of any size that you... All right. Take 'em Down Jack shirt. 4683 865? You gotta Take 'em Down Jack shirt. Woo! All right. When we say take 'em, you say down. Take 'em. Down. Take 'em. Down. Take 'em. Down. Take 'em. Down. All right. Thank you so much for coming. Y'all get home safe. Come support the tables. Take 'em down.
I just wanted to speak to the microphone, because you were so like they're very far from the microphone, so they were.
I know. You want to say this is our Take 'em Down page? Do you want to give your support? Say hi. I'm going to log off after that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a great day to be here and see everyone here together. And I always say, this is what I'm so proud, but this is also where I get so scared. I'm scared that you guys, now everyone knows that we're getting so strong. But be careful that don't let anyone divide you. Be careful that to grow and not get to any arguments, because this is where infiltrator from the other side will push people to divide us. So great job to everyone, but stay together and grow together. Take them down. All right.
Thank you everyone for watching our live feed. I'm going to go ahead and log off now. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Take 'em Down Jacks.